What are the top 3 topics that you think are going to be the most interesting topics when it comes to real estate here in the Twin Cities, state of Minnesota, and nationally? We're going to talk about that today. We're with Sharry Schmid, the president of Edina Realty. Sharry, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. After what was an interesting, is the word I use, Sharry.
Yeah, we'll call it interesting.
2024, which I am so glad is done now.
Behind us. Yep.
It's behind us. I have to say that 2025 already is absolutely an extraordinary year, and I'm really interested in hearing from you what you think we should be paying attention to in 2025.
Well, and in terms of, back to the question on the top 3, I think the big things buyers and sellers are going to be looking at is, number 1, what happens with interest rates. That's always a hot topic,
or maybe it doesn't really matter, right?
And that's where I was going to go with it, and it really doesn't matter, but it's still there. The other, along with that though, it's inventory and what's going to happen. Can I find something? If I list my home, will it sell? If I want to go buy a home, can I find something? And the answer to both of those is a resounding yes.
A resounding yes, especially with the very special collaboration we have, especially with Edina Realty, because of the power and the size.
Yep.
We specialize as a team, as a company, in finding what you're looking for as a consumer. And there are a myriad of ways that happens, and not many are able to do that. Certainly not as well as we do. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would echo that. I mean, given our size, the number of people, agents that you're able to network with to see what's coming online. And we also have a proprietary system called Network One, which enables us to do that pre-marketing and networking among each other. Because as a seller, I may or may not be ready to go on the market or onto the MLS. But internally, I am interested in getting the word out there that I'm thinking about selling, wondering what my house might command, and working with somebody like Carrie Ann and her team to be able to get the house ready. And as you're getting the house ready, then to see potentially there might be some buyers.
I think on a larger scale as well, the types of buyers we're seeing coming into the city and the age and placement of our population in the state of Minnesota. And what I mean by that is we're seeing a interesting dynamic that's been going on really since COVID passed, where there's a lot of movement nationally. And we're seeing an enormous amount of relocation coming into our state for a number of reasons. Our natural resources, our natural lifestyle here, our schools, and the cost of living is vastly different from many parts of the country. What are your thoughts on that?
I would echo all of that. I would also add, as you look at some of the devastation that's occurred nationally on the coasts in particular, and as people look at, okay, where can I get that great lifestyle for the cost?
Right.
And let's face it, climate here, yes, our winters are cold, but
right. Well,
considering,
I like it.
I don't mind it either, but considering everything else that you could deal with, a lot of people would look at it and say, I'll take the cold over some of the natural disasters that have been occurring.
Exactly. Well, in that, the reason I bring it up is the number on the list of 3 today, the second being supply and demand. What's interesting, and this is just not an issue happening, I won't call it an issue, it's just a thing that is relevant. We have the consumers out there looking at real estate that's been privately moving, because we have this ecosystem of sellers out there, and we're the empty nesters. And after 20 plus years in your home, you're in a place in your life where you're trying to figure out, it's called the pendulum swing in my mind, and you're trying to figure out where you're going to go. And as we all know, to go on the market these days and publicly sell your home, you got to be perfect. So what's happening is we're seeing a matchmaking. I talk about matchmaking opportunity that one of the things I love most about this brokerage, and why I love the collaboration piece of it, is as a family unit, we're able to network those opportunities that the sellers want to share, but not publicly because they're not ready yet. It's like a chessboard. They have to figure out where they're going, which creates a whole other layer of psychology in what is and will continue to be a supply-demand problem, right? So how do we manage all of that, set expectations, allow the consumer who's moving here to understand that, yes, it looks like we have a challenge serving up on a platter exactly what they're looking for, but if we ask the right questions, if we position you in a way through the representation that we do to help you seek out that perfect creme brulee, I call it can be done. It just requires some creativity, and I don't think that's going to change in the near future, given the movement, the trend, and the age group. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it really does boil down to sitting down and having all of those conversations and understanding what the lifestyle expectations, what those long-term goals and visions are for your family unit, whatever that means and whatever that looks like. And so having that real estate advisor to guide you through that process, to ask you the right questions and really truly understand what those needs are and where you're going.
And then just being able to actually figure out how to be creative and find it. Right? I mean, that is really the name of the game. I think a lot of people see obstacle in life transition because of overwhelm. So if you're able to partner with somebody who can help you through the hurdles, I always call it future casting. Future casting the end result and reverse engineering a solution. That is very manageable and doable. You just need to be partnered with the right people to help you do that. So whether you're local or national, you're moving here, there is beautiful real estate here. And it may not be perfect, but we can make it perfect. We have, that's a whole other conversation. So we have the interest rates, which personally, I don't feel that interest rates really drive our market. I've always felt like that. 25 years, both of us in the market, we've seen everything. Sharry and I have seen everything. And the interest rates right now are pretty much the same as they were 15, 18 years ago, and we were doing just fine back then. We've got the supply-demand conversation, which is ongoing. What's the third topic that you feel like will be a big conversation point?
I think the one trend that we're seeing, reading about, talking about is more multi-generational living. And that
absolutely,
it's becoming a bigger piece. And it's also, even in 24, it was a bigger percentage of overall transactions that were occurring. And I do think that that will continue for a variety of reasons.
I think so too. Well, okay, let's talk about the medical situation right now. And we do have a large population aging right now. And we are pairing that with, which we do, 55 plus housing is a big piece of the ecosystem that we're working with. But there is a financial component to this that's very real. And the multi-generational piece is happening right now, in my mind, for three reasons. Availability of places to live for our aging population. There just isn't enough housing available. Care and cost. So what do you see as a solution to that beyond? I mean, I think really the only solution right now is we're seeing that we're having to support families in the effort of figuring out how to right size their space so they can be multi-generational.
I think it goes back to what you said and having that approach when you're sitting down and talking with someone like you and getting creative. The housing stock is there and it's available. It's really understanding, down to the minute detail of what is exactly what's needed so that you can put all those pieces of the puzzle together and go find that solution.
That is the solution. And you make it happen. So you figure out, you're clear on what that is supposed to be. So sometimes it's creating it. Sometimes it's retrofitting space to do that. And the ability to finance that is possible, and a lot of people don't know that. So there's the money component as part of. So we've got interest rates, we've got supply and demand, and we have multi-generational. And you loop that all together, and what's the outcome?
The outcome is going to be a really strong 2025 in terms of overall sales. When you look back on the last couple of years, sales were a little bit slower, and I do think 25, all of that translates into a really much more of a robust market.
I agree. I think the number, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think they're saying right now nationally we're supposed to see a 12% increase in total sales in comparison to last year. I don't know if you've seen that number out there.
Yeah, give or take.
And I really do think that the partnership in finding, if you've been delaying and haven't been making a decision due to any of the above, really sit down and think about what the priorities are, because both of us feel about this equally. At the end, beginning and end of every day, it's your home. And your home is where you spend 80% of your time. It's where you begin and end an incredible journey, and you want to be able to spend time with your friends and your family and really be grounded. It's your grounding space. Don't hesitate because of overwhelm or thinking you can't afford to do something that maybe you can afford to do, but you just don't know because you've been afraid to rip off the Band-Aid, I call it. Or parents are struggling to make a decision because they're overwhelmed. I call it stuff management. We have a whole, sector of our business that we do is just around helping people with their stuff management. And then the supply demand piece, figuring out, being really clear on what it is you want, and we figure out how to find it for you. And we just keep at it until we do. So I really think that as we're moving into 2025 with Edina Realty at the forefront, after what I think the anniversary year this year was 25 years, was that right?
25 years in a row.
Of being
Number one in the market.
Yeah. Number one in the market in the Midwest and the state of Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah.
It's very, really impressive. And Sharry, I got to just say, you've done such a beautiful job of speaking such great knowledge. Where can people find you? Because you do quite a lot of speaking, both for the company and you're on some national boards and committees, that type of thing, sharing and what's happening locally and nationally. How can people find you so they can hear about what you're doing?
I have stuff on LinkedIn, and also if you follow Edina Realty, much of what I talk about publicly or that gets publicized, we put out on Edina Realty, so you can follow us there as well.
Well, it is always a privilege. Sharry, I always love visiting with you.
Same.
You're a
Thank
wealth
you.
of knowledge. We will be back in the second quarter to share with you an update. We expect it to be a vibrant 2025. Thank you again for spending time with us today on Fly the Coop. Don't forget to click and subscribe. We spent a lot of time and energy putting this together for you, and we'd love for you to be a part of our family. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. See you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.